and welcome to Around the Scene, presented to you by Playing with Rockets. I'm your host, Ryan, and joining me, as always, is Daddy Perino. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you, Ryan. It's so good. We're nice and early on the recording this week. We get to actually sit down and relax and not have to stress about getting the episode out.
Get the episode out on time.
We may have to change the deadline so we become on time consistently. Yeah, you know. We're getting there.
We've been busy. For anybody who doesn't know, we've been busy. We've had sickness. It's been a wild couple weeks here, but we are here, we are with you, and we are here to give you your fix on all things Rocket League. So if you like this, be sure to give us a follow, thumbs up, subscribe, do all those things on YouTube or your podcast service of choice. And, you know, Perino, it's really nice right now because it's a pretty simple show flow for us. You know, we get to recap everything that just happened, talk about how accurate we were and how much of a shit show EU was. And then we get to, you know, talk about, you know, our upcoming predictions and everything like that. So, you know, it's a pretty easy show for the day. But you ready to jump right on in?
Yes, as long as we don't forget to include one big storyline that developed over the past 48 hours. I would say.
Definitely a big storyline.
Yeah, so we have the show, we have all sorts of stuff, recapped results, but I'm looking forward to it. It should be another tremendous episode. I'm excited.
That it will be. So we're going to kick things off with the Asia Pacific North recap, and you know, this one I'm feeling pretty good just because I called it. You know, we did well here. Tokyo Verde Esports, they are going to be your APAC North champions. They take it very convincingly. They 4-2 Nimitz, who I was calling to be I believe I called them to be number 2 overall. But they, due to the way the Swiss ended up, they ended up on the same side of the bracket. They 4-2 them, but then they 4-0 throughout the rest of it. Even Hilltop Picnic, which was, you know, the team with Doomsy on it, they 4-0 and 4-1 them in the final set. So super convincing run from Tokyo Verde.
Yeah, and this was, I think, what we expected coming into this. You know, it's definitely a one-team region for the moment, but yeah, Tokyo Verde, I mean, they're the real deal. You know, when you stack them up against all of the other, you know, competition in the area, they prove to be the best. And, you know, I think I was kind of surprised about Hilltop Picnic. You know, this was a team that, you know, we said, you know, hey, you know, they have Doomsy, you know, they have experience, blah, 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 but they got all the way to the final.
Yeah. They got
which was kind of crazy
than we expected.
Yeah, and I think that may illustrate just the difference that the experience makes, in the sense that, you know, having a player who has played at an extremely high level, you know, is used to the stakes, you know what it takes, get there, huge impact in a region effectively full of rookies. So very, very cool, very neat to see that. I know a lot of people were rooting for, you know, Hilltop Picnic and Team Doomsy, but Tokyo Verde, you know, how good are those guys?
I mean, an extremely convincing win from them. I mean, let's take a look at their final record. They won straight through. They almost managed to take it without dropping anything in the final series. Hilltop Picnic just managed to take one in OT. But aside from that, all of these were ended in regulation. I mean, that is domination right there.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it was actually on the game of the effectively perfect run, you know, not dropping any games where they lost the overtime game. That's really tough. You know, none of those scores look too out of hand, you know, when you take a look at the score lines individually, but
you add all that up, though, that's quite a whopping right there.
Yeah, and the thing with Verde, and it's just the speed is the difference, really. You know, you watch some of these games, and
you did get a chance to watch a little bit of it.
Yeah, and I will say I was very blessed this weekend. You know, I actually had the chance to really go through, and again, you can't watch every single game, but most of them, right? You know, and at least going through and recapping. You know, I did watch a lot of EU, who we'll get to in a moment. I did catch this series. I actually caught a bit of SSA as well, so my opinions are a bit more informed, which is important. But Tokyo Verde, they're so fast. They're just gliding by people, and other teams will catch up to them just by the nature of getting the experience and the practice in. But it's going to take a while.
Well, it's especially because of how often they're going to be playing each other now. Like, this
Right.
is a regular competition they're going to start having. So, just the it's not only that they're finally having a higher level of competition. It's just now they're having like consistent competition.
And there's something to actually play for. That's the other thing. They're not
it's worth their time.
Right, they're not just scrimming and playing teams just to do it. Now there's actual real stakes in hand, so that helps.
Yeah. And, I mean, this region still isn't playing for, like, a whole lot of money. I mean, first place gets $4,500. Still a lot more than I'm ever going to make playing Rocket League. But, I mean, still a good amount of money, honestly. I mean, again, they just got to be happy that they're finally... I think that there's just a lot of happiness for these guys to just finally be in RLCS. And Tokyo Verde, they want this bad. They want it super bad.
Yeah, they're going to have the advantage of having the head start, I think, because they are, again, clearly better. We'll see how other teams are able to kind of put the chase on behind them. So.
Yeah, definitely be an interesting region to keep up with. And we'll be making predictions for them next week as they get ready for their second regional. But that's enough for APAC North. Moving on, we now have Sub-Saharan Africa. I'm not gonna lie, dude. We somehow were really good about our picks for knowing absolutely nothing and absolutely having nothing to go off of. So I'm feeling pretty good here. I mean, I think you called ATK to be the champions.
Yep.
I called Pirates to be the champions. I mean, to get a grand final with both of them, that's pretty nuts.
Yeah, the coin flip merchants strike again here, doing it the best way possible. Yeah, there's not a whole lot to say about it because obviously, you are just kind of pulling, whatever reason you can think of out of thin air. But
I mean, my reasoning was just, they have Liquipedia information.
Yeah, but apparently that's enough. I just like ATK because of the logo, and apparently the logo did them well. They at least got to the grand final.
Yeah, they definitely did well. But then also the other two that we called out were Orglis and X-Pandas. I mean, to have all of them make it into day 2 is pretty impressive in itself. To have 3 of them make it to day 3, I mean, just crazy, honestly. But it just goes to show that there's some solid talent here as well. And I'm just excited to kind of see again. I know I say it a lot, but I really am just excited to see and learn more about these regions. And I mean, Pirates. I mean, they did really solid work here. They took this grand final just as convincingly as Tokyo Verde. Honestly, I mean. Yeah, there's just a 1 game difference there, but still solid.
Yeah, so I actually caught a bit more of SSA. It was at a little bit of a better time for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the hard part is when you're so used to watching like the NA and EU professionals who have been doing this for so long. Like,
well, and after having
obviously
casted them even.
Ahead. That too.
I mean, you and me have had the opportunity and the fortune to be super up close to all the action. So, I mean, there is a lot of a difference there when you look at these other areas.
Yeah, it almost takes you a bit out of it, which is what I didn't expect, because you see some of the mistakes and like some of the not even mechanical errors, but just like how not fast it is. When you watch like 2 really good NA teams go after it, I mean, they play like lightning. Everything is just like next, go. Yeah, and it's actually kind of unique and interesting because SSA doesn't play that way. And obviously, yes, it's because they're a brand new region. Like, I'm not faulting the players. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's not. Like, I'm not trying to like speak down on anyone.
Yeah.
But it was just a very interesting viewing experience because you really got to see the difference level. And SSA, I think, still has a long way to go. Again, the 2 grand final teams I thought were pretty good. ATK and Pirates. Pirates in particular, obviously, with the way that they performed in the grand final, taking it very convincingly. But the rest of the teams in the region, I think, again, it's early. It's the first week.
Yeah.
Literally the first week of competition ever.
And, I mean, how the other thing too you kind of have to ask yourself too is like how much, these other 4 regions. It's the question of how much competition was there really going on prior to RLCS. I mean, like how many
None.
competitions were there going on for SSA, especially because it was like for the longest time I had kept hearing about how they didn't have any servers close enough to actually really play.
Yeah.
So you just gotta kind of wonder about some of that stuff. But curious to ask you this though, and you may be able to answer it, you may not. Do you feel like you already kind of get a semblance of what their play style is for that region though? Because we know that each region has their own unique way that they kind of play as a whole, as a region. Do you feel like you kind of knew what theirs was?
It's hard to say after 1 week. And obviously I probably watched more of SSA. So I watched a fair amount of EU. I can't say all, but
I think everybody wanted to watch
EU.
that train wreck.
Couldn't look away. So I watched a fair amount of EU. I watched a little bit of APAC North and maybe half of the day 3 for SSA here. And it's hard to say off a small sample size. I did like that a lot of it felt like solo play. It was almost as if, and this is purely theory, but I feel like you get a lot of 1s and 2s mains out of these areas because given the lack of depth of the player base in these servers, those are probably more popular playlists.
True.
For higher level because, you're going to consistently find better players queuing in those areas. So I think the teamwork isn't all the way there yet. And so it's a lot of individual play. I think a team that can quickly figure out, how to move it across Dignitas style, not really as good obviously, but really passing the ball, the way the Team Envy play is the way that I describe it. But high intensity, moving the ball across, really effectively, moving all 3 players across the pitch. I think if you can find a team that does that really well, they can probably overperform just by being able to beat the individual meta. But that's based on just off of watching. I think I watched maybe 4 series total.
Yeah.
But that was the impression that I had.
I mean, that's interesting though, because I think there probably is some merit to what you're saying though about them being 2s and 1s mains mostly, which makes me wonder if that kind of continues. Do we see them progress faster mechanically as they start going up against these other regions and as they start having more consistent forms of competition? Because again, we talk about these newer regions and stuff. Sometimes they make the mistakes that you don't see in SAM, OCE, EU, NA. I wonder if they keep going the way that they're going, if we see them progress mechanically much more quickly. So that'd be interesting, I think, to look at moving forward.
Yeah, and I think the mechanics will be harder to come by just because it's so difficult it's a player base issue there, right?
Yeah.
It's not like
very low population.
Yeah, and
player population.
It's hard to really practice, especially 3v3. With the differences, because you need good mechanics for 3s, but they're different mechanics, and it's not the flashy stuff always.
Yeah,
and that's harder practice to come by in a lower population server. So I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out. Again, this is only the first week of a brand new region, so I'm not going to
gonna be super interesting for sure.
Yeah.
But one thing that is interesting, this was a team that we didn't look at too much, was Water. They actually almost upset Pirates in the semifinals to take their spot in the finals. So that's a team that we'll be keeping an eye on as we go into next regionals predictions. But that's going to have to wait for next week as we hop on over to South America. You and me, again, another one that I feel super happy that we're able to call these other regions, that we're actually being accurate in our predictions. But it also feels like it's kind of unfair because it's a little easy. EU is probably like the legendary mode of Halo, essentially, when it comes to predictions. NA is like hard mode, and then everything else is like, normal, and then we're like recruit level, easy kind of thing. But still awesome to see, though. Furia, they're holding it down. They are definitely filling that gap that True Neutral have left behind, and they are not wasting time.
Yeah, Furia really came out and took it to them. Definitely found, their flow. We expect that, of course, out of the Kaio and Card combo. Those guys have been really, really good in that area for a really long time. I say really long time. It's all relative. All relative, especially with this season, though, in the new regions. But yeah, Furia, to the surprise of no one, I think, taking this down. Noble Esports coming in second. Again, really strong team in Era, Eternity, Dream Conspiracy, third, fourth. Yeah, really, really solid. I don't remember, though. What do you have our predictions from last week saved?
Our predictions all made it to the final day. Mm-hmm. And they could, we were this close to actually being right. We predicted Era Eternity, Furia Esports, 3 Sins, and Vegas Inferno. So they actually all ended up in separate matches. So they all actually would have funneled into the semifinals the way we predicted. However, Noble Esports took down 3 Sins, and then Dream Conspiracy took down Vegas Inferno to take their spots instead.
Yeah, I think
our prediction was Furia for the grand final to be the winner overall.
Yeah, and I think missing on Noble there, it's kind of interesting. They definitely came in with something to prove this season. Noble have struggled at times in Sam, but they really stepped it up and definitely overlooked them a bit. I do think our predictions were really solid all around here, but Noble coming out and doing as well as they did and taking it all the way to Furia, pretty impressed. So I'm gonna add a little check mark next to their name. Definitely another team to look out for here.
Them and Dream Conspiracy are two that I'm gonna kind of be paying a little bit more attention to moving into the next one.
Yeah, should be good, but for now, it's still Furia's region to lose, really.
Yeah, and that really is the case. As soon as True Neutral left, it really became a one-man region like the rest of these. I mean, Furia and True Neutral were somewhat competitive. True Neutral definitely eked them out more, or edged them out more times than not, but with True Neutral gone, you have to wonder, what's the real competition here for Furia anymore? They had a close-ish game against Dream Conspiracy. That was a 4-2. They played Endgame. That was a 4-1. You look at their other games. They played 3-0, 3-1, 3-1. So they already had played Noble Esports, actually, in round 3 of the Swiss. So them meeting again in the grand finals, if you're Furia, you're feeling really confident going into that because you're like, we already took these guys down. This isn't going to be that big a deal for us. You're just adding some extra games, but they've already got that confidence that they have done this before, and that they know that they're the top dogs in the region now. So you got to imagine that gives them some motivation as well, because now with Worlds and Majors confirmed for lands, like, that's super exciting for these guys.
Yeah, and it helps they also have the biggest org in the region, too. You know, they're definitely the most backed team, you know, in terms of organizational support there as well. So, you know, they have a big brand to live up to with Furia. And right now they're doing really well at fulfilling it, no question. As you mentioned, you know, going for that, you know, that World's land spot, obviously huge for them. So
putting in work.
Only the first week of the, you know, first regional, I should say. So
yeah. But that's going to
plenty of time for different storylines to come along here.
Oh, for sure. They got plenty of time for stuff to happen. But that's going to do it here for South America. Now we're going to move on over to the train wreck that is EU. I don't think you and me could have been more wrong with any of our predictions.
Right. So the only thing that I'll say is that it's a good thing that BDS still, for the most part,
lives up to the name.
Yeah, because that's like the one.
That was the only constant.
Yeah, the one shining light in a cacophony of disaster. And boy, well, do we start backwards? Do we start? Where do we even begin?
Let's go backwards. We'll start at the beginning.
Okay, start at the beginning.
So,
oh boy.
Okay, so biggest shock, and I think I speak for both of us, is Team Vitality. And not both of us. I probably speak for everybody. Team Vitality, I think, was the biggest shock of this entire event. They just could not get things up and running, and I don't think anybody saw this coming. For not that they, you know, didn't make it into the top 8, because I think that, you know, this region is very deep. You can see that. The fact that they got 3-0'd, like, or they went 0-3 for the Swiss, is just, like, insane to me. You look at all these other teams, and it's just like, I don't think anybody in their right mind is picking Vitality to be 0-3 at a Swiss.
No, and especially when you look at the teams that they lost to, because they lost to Double O Nation, they lost to Vodafone Giants, and they lost to EG, Evil Geniuses.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? And they looked bad. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't like, they just got like really unlucky, you know, and teams were just like peaking, and no, they were just bad. It looked like a team that hadn't played together in a while. It looked like a team that thought that they could just waltz into EU this year and still just kind of lollygag around and finish top 4 or whatever it is. And that is not the case. That is just not the case for what EU is right now. Vitality absolutely, I think, took a shot across the bow this week. I expect them to bounce back. I hope that it puts the fear of God in them, because they didn't take any points.
The biggest issue for Vitality with them going 0-3 for this event is they walked away with 40 points. And
which is nothing.
It's absolutely nothing, especially when the top team who wins it all walks away with a 301. The thing for Vitality now is they have to get 2 top 4 finishes at least in order to hopefully make it to the major. If they fail to get a top 4 finish, the odds of them making it to the major in the fall major are extremely low. And not seeing K-Dop at our first land back would be the weirdest thing ever to me. So if I'm these guys as we go into the next one, I'm boot camping for my life, because there's no way these guys want to miss out on it, especially after just winning all of EU for RLCS 10.
Yeah, and the thing is, they have to go through the open qualifier now, don't they?
No, they have to go through the closed qualifier. It's if you make it to the main event.
Oh, it's the closed qualifier.
If you make it to the main event, and the bottom 8 all have to go through the closed qualifier for the next one. They automatically make it to the closed qualifier. If they don't make it out of that closed qualifier, then they fall to open qualifier moving forward. But yeah, they're still in the closed qualifier, but that doesn't mean really anything because they still have to play against a lot of really strong teams with it being EU. So they're still... I mean, because not only are they competing against, whatever 8 teams make it to the closed qualifier, they're also competing against all these other teams, 2 of which they lost to.
Right.
So it's not a good look for Vitality right now. Like, if you're a Vitality fan, it kind of sucks.
To put it mildly. Yeah, and that's... And that was certainly the biggest one. When you look at the other teams that didn't make it, I think Guild not making it was maybe a bit surprising. I personally thought that they would have a good event. That was not the case.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like that first, Swiss stage, I thought it was pretty close. I think a lot of people pegged the Flying Dutchman. This is Violent Panda's new team,
Mm-hmm.
to get out as well. They were really close. They got to the last qualifier, but then lost to Williams Resolve.
Well, that's after they went all the way to Game 5 with Misfits to then go Game 5 with Williams and lose against them too. So it's like the Flying Dutchman came uber close, just couldn't quite make it though.
Yeah, and that made it interesting. But otherwise, I think, in terms of qualifying, wasn't outside of Vitality, wasn't too crazy. But then you get into the playoff stage.
Yeah, then you go to playoffs and more shit hits the fan. Semper Esports, I think, was one that, they came out of the Swiss bracket swinging. Them and Carmine Corp both went 3-0 to come out as the top 2 seeds. Semper beat Team BDS, and so for them to, they did so well, and then to come into day 2 and just flop against. I say flop, but they went all 7 games, but they just ultimately could not take the victory there. That's got a sting. On the flip side of that, though, Scrub is back. Scrub is back in Rocket League, and he's here to take names, it feels like.
Yeah, and, the young man was getting it done there.
Is he still a young man? How many years has it been since he became pro?
You're going to make me feel old by asking that question on its own.
We can go back to that later. We'll circle back.
We'll circle back to that. But yeah, Dignitas is a team that I think has a really high ceiling. Little unlucky for them, even, I think, that they ran into BDS in the semis.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, that once you get to that point, you're kind of up against whomever.
Yeah.
Because I thought they actually played really well throughout the entire weekend. Even though they probably felt that they dropped some games, especially in the Swiss stage, they kind of just squeaked it out there.
Mm-hmm.
It was really close, but they handled their business. And I think once they develop that consistency a bit more, they'll be a lot better even. I expect Dignitas to remain, hunting near, one of those pole positions.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Here in EU. And, on the flip side for Semper, again, just it's just a tough reach.
Well,
there's only so much you can do. Again, I thought they played well, but it's like, okay, we have 2 teams playing well. Someone has to go home. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, too, is, you look at, these top 8, I think, really, aside from Evil Geniuses and Williams Resolve, I could realistically see any of the other 6 teams being the champion here. I don't think like aside from those two, I don't think I look at the other 6 teams and think that they would be undeserving if they took the win for the regional or anything. Like it's one of those things where it's like I can fucking see it. Like it really is just any man's region at this point. How Team BDS are still managing to be as consistent as they are, I'm super interested to know. Because
they're better.
I mean, honestly, that's kind of what it feels like. I mean, the fact that like they still, despite dropping the one game there in the Swiss, that's the team that you expect to go 3-0, and walk out of it with top 1 or 2 seed. They still drop that, but they come back and they still end up taking 2nd overall after an extremely close grand finals. I mean, 4-3, 4-3. They barely lost this thing. Barely.
Yeah. And let's talk about our winner for this event, as we go through the bracket, because it was Endpoint.
Yeah.
Endpoint, of all teams, to come through and upset BDS is what I would say in that grand final. 2-4-3 series. It appears that the best of set is the Kryptonite for BDS, because they don't have a tremendous record in those games.
They do not.
But yeah, Endpoint. This is Relating Wave Metsanaris and the rookie Saiku getting it done. Very, very shocking. I didn't think that they would do this well. I'm not even sure I even had them pinned to make it out of the Swiss stage, to be honest, when we did the predictions.
We did not predict them to make it out of the Swiss stage.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, if I go back and look, I can almost guarantee you we did not pick them.
Yeah. Just a incredible run. They found their form. Right at the right time. That's a team that's peaking, in the first regional on the playoff day, and I feel like that's just kind of how it is in EU. If you're just peaking, you're just peaking, and if not, you're gonna get smacked around.
Yeah. The team that is peaking is gonna beat the crap out of you.
Right, and it's just tough. It's just really tough. But huge result for them, because it's kind of crazy, because there are only 3 regionals leading up to the major, right?
Yep.
Only 3.
So every win is extremely important, and with a victory here, they have almost certainly guaranteed a spot for themselves at the fall major to represent EU.
Right, because I was wondering about the math and how that, figures
you
out.
You walk away with 301 points. So the points are consistent through each regional for fall. So 301, 250, 200. That's if you're top 4, you're walking away with at least 200 points. You walk away from top 8, 150. You walk out 8th to 11th. So realistically, if you're Endpoint, you just need an 8th to 11th or a 9th to 11th placement, and you're representing EU at the major. You're one of the teams representing, pretty much.
Yeah, that's wild to me, and as a result, we're probably not going to see some really great teams, because if this is how it plays out every week, where it's just one team really, kicking the crap out of everyone else.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a bloodbath. It's an absolute bloodbath, and there's no guarantee for anyone out of that region for those major spots. So, Endpoint, congrats, because that's a huge, huge victory. Just to get that and put yourself on track for the major. But
I mean, I say all that, but there is still potential that they don't make it. Because let's say that they walk away 9th to 11th in the next one, and then they somehow get that 2 times in a row for the next ones. If Dignitas, BDS, and Carmine Corp all consistently hit up in those top 3, top 5th to 8th, Semper Esports, Misfits, if all of them consistently hit in those places, then by the time you finish out the 3rd regional, they're edged out. So, and that's almost the unforgiving piece to all this, is like you could win, but you still have to do a decent job in the following 2 in order to consider yourself truly safe going into the next one. Like if they if they get a third, fourth finish, like, they're golden. They are totally going to it. There's nothing to worry about. But 9th to 11th, there still is a really good chance they're going, but they have to be careful going into that third one.
Makes me glad I'm not a pro because there's just so much pressure on
it
every
is
single
scary.
series.
Well, and that's the thing that, you could win a regional, but you still might not make it to your major. Like, that's just crazy to me. And I'm not saying Endpoint won't. I feel like these guys they did an extremely good job in that event. I feel like it wasn't a fluke. I do feel like they're going to be in the major, but it's just crazy when you start thinking about the math of they still might not make it. If they just flop in the next two, if they pull a Vitality, they ain't going.
Yeah. Well, apparently Vitality aren't good right now, so maybe you want to pull them now. But yeah, I don't know, man. That's way too much. And pressure's on. Pressure's on everyone, really. I think BDS is probably the only one that's accepted to it.
I think everybody looks at BDS and is like, they are for sure going. So what are who is competing for the other 4 spots is kind of where I think a lot of your headspace goes towards. Because BDS are still showing that they've got that consistency that nobody else has in EU.
Right, and even if they finish, top 4 in every single regional after this, like that's, they're guaranteeing it at that point. So
yeah, exactly.
They don't even have to win it realistically to go, just because they've been the only ones, and I do mean the only ones that have shown a level of consistency. I will say, K-Core there, also played really well. Mm-hmm. I think they were a bit unlucky against Endpoint. I don't know if you caught that last game on Champions Field, the 4-3.
I did not.
And it was a bit tragic. Not the best way to end it for K-Core. They had a rough go of it, but I do think they can become one of those teams, at least early on here, that has some level of consistency. I think they showed it again in preseason with WePlay, and I forget what the other one was, the other tournament, but definitely came out swinging in those. They've continued a good run of results here, but they're so narrow. You look at the quarterfinal game,
razor thin margins.
4-3 over Williams Resolve. And again, just barely making it out. That was an overtime game, by the way. Yeah. And then the same thing, a 1-goal game 7 to lose it against Endpoint in the semis. Like, it's razor thin. But I do think they can do it. I think they can be consistent. But
I think they can too. And it'll be interesting. We're gonna keep an eye on this because the train wreck is only going to continue, I guarantee, as we go into regional number 2. But we'll be looking at our predictions for that next week. Now it is time for you and me to go into our predictions for the upcoming weekend, Perino. So we're going to start off with APAC South. Last time I called ALK, One Esports, Pineapple Cake, and Shoguns to be the top 4. ALK and One Esports both made it to top 4. I predicted ALK would be the winners. They were indeed the victors last regional, but some teams did stand out last regional, and they definitely showed up. We're going to go back to that just to kind of show you all a little bit of the results. Final standings, ALK took first, Azure takes second, One takes third, fourth, Team Atelier takes third, fourth as well. So, those are pretty solid teams right there. They all did pretty solid in their bracket runs. I think I'm still looking at this, though, and I don't think the grand final was that close last time. Let me see. Yeah, it wasn't. I'm still pulling for ALK to take the grand finals in this next one. I don't see a reason why I should go against them. I mean, that was pure domination throughout. I mean, they took 4-0, 4-0, 8-1, essentially, in the grand final. I mean, these guys just dominated through the whole thing. Throughout the whole event, they dropped one game, and it was there in the grand final. If I'm a betting man, I'm going for them as the winners again.
Yeah. No reason to not go with the team that has run away with it. Again, we talk a lot about one-horse regions. It appears that Alk can be that team. I will admit that, my knowledge of this region is still relatively poor, so I'm not gonna go too crazy. I'm probably just gonna stick with the results, given to us. But I think week to week, it'll be interesting to see if there's variance amongst the other teams, or if there becomes an established hierarchy, right? So, so many of these regions, are one-team regions for the moment. But I think it'll be interesting to see, who groups up behind them. Is it just chaos behind them, like we see in EU, or is it a bit more structured? Where like NA, where there's like a very distinct, top 4, I would say, and pretty distinct levels.
Yeah, it'll be definitely interesting to see. As for now, though, I think you and me can kind of do like joint pick'ems here. I think we're both in agreement that we're gonna call Alk to be the champion for Regional 2. They just purely dominated through that, and I don't see that changing in the next one, just based on the way that they ran through that last one. But who do you think they meet in the grand finals?
I'll go with one esports. It was a semifinal matchup last time. I think being on the other side of the bracket will help them if they get there. I have a fair amount of confidence, at least from the one series that I saw of them play, that they're pretty decent. So I'll go with them.
I could see one being the other side of it. As for the 3rd and 4th place finishes, I think I'm going to put Azure Esports up there for a finish. The last one I think kind of goes up for grabs. The other 3rd to 4th place finish, I think, could go between Triple Jawa and Zentra. I think that Team Atelier, they got 3rd, 4th in this last one, but based on what I'm looking at, it looks like they just kind of got lucky with the way that it played out, because they didn't do that great in the Swiss stage. They dropped against Team Celestial and Triple Jawa. Triple Jawa 3-0'd them. So and it looks like they kind of got easy wins here against some lower teams who didn't do quite as well. So personally, I think that was just kind of a lucky placement for them. I think I'd put more stock in Triple Jawa or Zentra for that other 3rd to 4th place finish.
Yeah, but they have a cool name.
I mean, it is a cool name, but Triple Jawa sounds cool too. And Zentra's a cool logo. So
Zentra does have a cool logo.
Team Atelier doesn't even have a logo. Like, what are
that's where they get you.
What are
that's
you
where they
doing? No, I'm kidding. But how do you feel about calling that as our kind of final setup?
I think that's reasonable. I think that's a good take. Again, I haven't really caught up with this region much, so it's hard for me to really say one way or another.
So our predictions for this second regional are going to be Alk take first, One Esports take second, Azure Esports takes 3rd, 4th, and I'm going to give it to Triple Jawa. I think Triple Jawa takes the other 3rd, 4th place spot here. So we'll see how accurate we are going to the next one, but that's going to do it for Asia Pacific South. Moving on to Middle East and North Africa. Again, same as last region, I don't think I can go against Sandrock. Sandrock dominated. They got 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. Went into the second day 4-1, 4-1, 8-1. I don't think I can go against these guys.
Nope. It's going to have to be Sandrock unless proven otherwise for me as well. I do agree with that. Beyond that, kind of hard to say. I think Ultimates have shown that they can at least be a pretty solid number 2 to Sandrock. So I think I would still include them in the top 4, but beyond that, I think it kind of just depends on who's having a good day. How the seeds, in the Swiss stage, shake out, all that kind of stuff. It's kind of...
Yeah, personally, I'm still pretty happy with who I chose last time, and I'm still pretty much going to stick with that minus Sudor Esports. So my predictions last time were Sandrock, Falcons, Ultimates, Sudor. I think I stick with the other three, honestly. I think I still am going to keep them as a top 3 finish. I'll probably give the other one probably to Sleeping because they did pretty well. They actually were one of the teams that beat Ultimates in the Swiss stage, so I give them some credence with that. And they also did make a top 4 finish. So, I mean, it looks like I'm just kind of expecting this again, but I kind of am. I think these guys all did... They put up pretty solid results here in this last one. I could see Annika swapping out with Sleeping, but I think I'm going to maintain that's probably the same top 4 for the second one.
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing if we get any like really big upsets. If we have a team that really comes out and takes a stab at like a top 4 finish. But so far, it seems, at least with the Middle East, that there is like a pretty like fair progression, from the low end to the top end. They're seemingly not as chaotic.
Yeah.
So I think it's fair to just stick with the current leaderboard. Go from there.
One team I do hope does well is Uchiha, just because I think it's very interesting that they're using Naruto stuff here. Curious to see how far that gets them.
I like that.
So I think... so we both agree Sandrock Gaming is number 1 coming out for the second regional. Who do you think meets them in the grand finals this time?
Oh, man. See, it's so hard because I think a lot of this depends on how the seeds come out of the Swiss stage. Which makes it really, really difficult to say. However, I'll go with Falcons, actually. Last time in the previous regional, they dropped 4-1 to the Ultimates. And I think the Ultimates played really well, but I like Falcons to take it the other way on the next one.
See, I think it might be Sleeping, because Sleeping... I think their only loss was against Sandrock. No, they lost to Sudor, but in this they beat Ultimates in the Swiss, and then they lost to Sandrock here. So I almost feel like they would stand a good chance as well. But I could definitely see Falcons as well. I'm going to go with you on that one. So our predictions are going to be Sandrock Gaming takes it all, Falcons Esports takes second, Ultimates and Sleeping take third, fourth. Any arguments?
I like it.
Sweet. Moving on to our next one. We're kind of blazing through these, but it's also because we're running out of time because we're talking about EU a lot, and we still have other things we have to talk about as well. So
yes,
we're going to kind of blast through this one a little bit. So sorry for anybody who's expecting a little bit more. This one... I called the top 4 exactly last time. Renegades, Ground Zero, Riot, Dire Wolves. I think, again, probably continues because OCE, despite having been around for a bit longer, they still kind of have the same thing that we're seeing with all these other regions of, they have their top couple teams or 2 teams, and then there's everybody else. And I really believe that, Direwolves, Riot Gaming, Ground Zero, and Renegades are just their top 4. And then there's everybody else. Juiced might be in contention with some of this, but I still think it's really those 4.
Yeah, and it certainly feels that way. I think it's even, you could even almost separate it by 2s in there. I think you have Renegades and GZ.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Direwolves and Riot, so it's like you have like a split top 4 in that sense. But yeah, I tend to agree with that. I don't really think there's any reason to split. I'm hoping that we get excuse me, some kind of upset, but no guarantees or promises on that.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna put the exact same prediction I did last time of them being the top 4. I think probably this time I'm just going to change it to Renegades, because Renegades, they gave GZG a good smack in their last regional.
Yeah, they certainly did. But they've also had 2 weeks to sort of figure it out and get better. So I don't know. I don't know. Listen, I make no promises amongst all these other regions, man. It's tough.
That grand final was 11-4.
Yeah.
That's a lot of wins for Renegades.
Yeah, and realistically, you should say, it's 2 4-0s.
Mm-hmm.
And then a 3-4.
Yeah.
Like, when you think about it that way,
two sweeps and one really close one that they almost took.
Yeah.
So personally, last time I said Ground Zero would be the winners. I'm gonna just change it based off of what I saw in that last one. Again, I was kind of going off of the information I had last time. I think that this time Renegades take it again.
I'm down with it.
Go.
I'm down with it.
All right, so our final prediction is going to be Renegades come out on top. GZG take second. Riot and Direwolves again will take third and fourth place. I know that these are very cookie cutter, predictions we're making, but I'm hoping that we're wrong, honestly, because I think that makes more interesting Rocket League, and it also shows growth for a region. But until you start seeing it, it's really hard to feel like you need to go against what the cookie cutter option is.
Yeah, we're only 2 weeks into the season, so we've only seen one round of games for every region. It's hard to really take too much out of one round, but so, except for EU, where you can look at it way too much.
Exactly. So North America, we're gonna hop on over to pickstop.gg, where we are gonna make our predictions here, and then we will kind of close out that piece, and then we'll go into a little bit more discussion real fast. So you and me are running out of time, though, so let's be a little bit quick through this piece. So we have to pick our top 8 teams that are going to make it out of the Swiss bracket stage. We can just do the kind of bunny hop back and forth like we did last time, if that's cool with you.
Yep, go quickly.
Awesome.
Let it run.
All right. I'm going to speak for both of us. Team Envy is going to be making it on to day 2.
Energy.
Space Station.
Phase.
Phase. Awesome. So I am also going to say that G2 make it to day 2 as well. Now we get to the interesting piece of who are our other 3.
Yeah, and now it gets really challenging. We've already had 5 go through. Looking at the rest of the teams, I'll actually, based on what I saw and the work that I put in, I'm actually going to go with Ghost.
Ooh, Ghost. That's an interesting pick.
Yep.
I like that pick a lot. I am going to, for the next one, just based off of what I saw and how there still is a lot of room for growth for these guys, I think True Neutral will make it again.
Yep, and if I get one last shout here, hometown team bias. Did get to do some work with them during the day 3 of the qualifier, and I am hoping that I'll be there on stage Friday with them. But I'm going to go with the boys, RBG. Give me Stoke, Money, and Expert. Do I think that they'll make it? It's really tough. There's a lot of good teams out there, but I'm going hometown team. I'm putting them through. I don't care.
For the audio listeners, he is wearing an RBG shirt.
Yes. Gotta rep the brand. Josh and I are really good friends. And
Josh is awesome.
Josh.
For the record, the owner of RBG is very good friends with both of us. So, there's a little bit of bias in that.
A little bit, but that's okay.
But okay, so those are our top 8 that we think are going to make it out of the Swiss stage. Who do you think are going to be the 2 teams that advance 3-0?
Do I get one?
You get one, I get one.
NRG.
I can see that one. For me, I kind of think it's FaZe. I think they come out of this last regional with a lot of momentum. And I think that they come out of it with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder still. I think that people still may kind of doubt that this roster has, what it takes to be consistent. Because, when First Killer was with Rogue, they weren't incredibly consistent either. So I think that still is a thing that they have to prove. And I think that, I think that is motivation for them going to this one. So I think they come out swinging 3-0.
I like it.
So, who do we think are going to be eliminated 0-3 out of the 8 that don't make it to day 2?
Ooh. I'm actually gonna go Rogue here. They really struggled even.
Okay, I'm glad that I'm not the only one who thought that.
I think they really struggled.
They almost didn't make it out of the closed qualifier.
Yeah, and shout out to Spaceman who made that very, very interesting. If you have a chance, go and watch the 8-minute overtime that they had. It was against Ghost, maybe.
I think it was.
Or no, it was against Sonics.
Yeah.
It was against Sonics. Yeah, the Rogue Sonic series. Credit to Spaceman. He made a spectacle out of that. But Rogue looked rough at times, and I don't think that bodes well for them headed into this event.
Yep, I gotta agree with you. The other one that I am probably gonna call 0-3. This is a tough one because I feel like it's between two teams for me. I am going to go Nefarious. Actually, no. I think I'm gonna go EU. It was between between those two teams for me, honestly, and I think that United still. I see them kind of being the same as Rogue, of like they just haven't figured it out, and based off of, like how they kind of keep swapping around, like who's doing what, like they just don't seem like they really know what they want to do with this team, and I think that. I think the players feel like the management doesn't know what to do with the team. But the management doesn't quite want to drop them or anything. So for me, it just feels like this is a team that's kind of headed towards ruin. And I hope that I'm proven wrong by that. I hope that they do, figure out what the heck they're doing here and turn it around and make this a competitive roster again. But I just have not seen anything that tells me otherwise. So, personally, I want to go EU. The only reason I would have gone Nefarious over them is because I just feel like Nefarious don't quite have the experience at this level. But they've also been here before, so it's kind of hard for me to really justify that one as much.
Yeah, Adam, Hockey, and Buddy are actually nuts.
Exactly, and I think that's part of why it's like I can't really justify that as easily as I can to United.
Yeah, those guys know how to pop off. But the other thing is that in the qualifier headed into this, United actually did beat Nefarious 3-2 to get in. So there is that point. But I agree. I think it would have been a toss-up there. I think maybe, well, realistically, RBG would have been the other 3. But, hometown team discount. It's fine. It's fine.
Hometown team discount. Oh, gosh.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, real quick, though, before we move on to the final piece to our predictions here. If you didn't pick RBG, who would you pick to take their spot? I'm not going to change our predictions, but who do you think would be the other top 8?
Probably version 1.
Really? I think Torrent.
Between the two.
Yeah, I think Torrent. But I would still love to see RBG. But those are our predictions. You can see them on pickstop.gg. Our username is around the scene, all one word. There's only 70 submissions at the moment, so go get your predictions in by Friday morning so you can, see how you stack up against everybody else making their predictions. So, Perino, looking at our top 8 here, who do you think are the top 4, and how do you think it finishes out?
Do I just get to say it, or
we'll just have you say it this time so we can move on to our final topic.
Okay, top 4, FaZe, NRG, Envy, G2. Only because I need some level of variance in my life. I do think NRG ends up winning this time. They'll probably run into Envy or FaZe in the grand final. I think NRG are just really too good right now.
Mm-hmm.
The first killer effect for FaZe has been excellent. It wouldn't shock me. I think G2 also has something to prove here. Don't discount Chicago and JNAPS and the young man Drees just yet.
Yep.
I think that they can really still make a dent in this. I'm just trying to make it fun. But I probably have, I would say top 4 Energy, FaZe, Envy, G2 with Energy taking it.
All right. And that is going to be our predictions for North America for Region 2. So now we have one final piece of news to discuss. It's time for the roster shuffle. So for those of you who do not know, there's a team that is missing from this regional, and that is the Shopify Rebellion. One of the teams that we were dubbing to be part of the new order for North America as part of the top 6 have fallen hard as Beast Mode is officially taking time away from Rocket League. It forced Shopify to play with their sub in the closed qualifier, and they got 3-0'd. Or they went 0-3 for the Swiss bracket there in the closed qualifier. So now Shopify Rebellion are no longer guaranteed to be a part of next regional. They have to go through the open qualifier, make it to the closed qualifier, and then win in the closed qualifier to even get to the third regional. Their chances of going to the regional are goodbye. They're not going to the regional, or the major.
The major.
They are not going to the fall major. Their chance has come and gone. So this is going to be a organization and roster that looks to rebuild going into the winter, basically.
Yeah, and so there's so many things to break down here.
Oh, yeah.
And I wish that we had more time because I know we're already pushing our limit. But so couple of things. Shocking to me that someone would choose to not play the game when they're still so young. Beast Mode was only 16 for the record.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking to me that that's the direction to go with it. I respect it in the sense that you got to do what's best for you. And if you feel that you are not having a good time, if it's very draining on your mental health, if it's just not something you find to be a good use of your time, then so be it. That's the way it is. And good for you for making that decision because it's not easy, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
However, on the flip side, you are royally screwing your team and your organization, who, by the way, just spent who knows how much money buying out those contracts and putting him in one, speaking of.
Yeah.
And the way that he worded his, announcement that he was stepping down, he left it open to the idea of coming back. I'm going to tell you right now, I would not touch this again with a 10-foot pole.
Mm-hmm.
If he decides to come back eventually. I know that's harsh, but that's just the reality. I'm sorry, but there's no way.
Yeah. It's... Yeah, to drop out and force your team to play with a new third like that, just... And especially to do it in the middle of what is a very important moment for your team. Like, at least, in my opinion, I think you still should, go through, play at least the qualifier, try to get the team there, and then you can say, hey, I did my part, you guys are here, like, everything past this is up to y'all, though, because then at least you're giving them a chance, and they still have the opportunity to be back for the next regional, because they'll still at least have a chance in the closed qualifier no matter what, because they made the main event this time. Now they have to go all the way through open qualifiers, closed qualifiers, just to get to the main event to have a chance to get any points. Like, to go from a second place finish with the We Play Invitational to this is just, that's gotta be hard. But it's also just, it's just the reasoning that he gives, like you were saying. It's very, I don't know. He doesn't go so far. He goes so far as to kind of say that, like, it wasn't a good environment, but he doesn't outright, like, say exactly what it is or if he's ever going to try and come back to this team particularly. So I'm going to read you his twit longer that he posted. Very short, to the point for the most part. Beast Mode, the reason on why I am stepping away. Quote, so for now, I will be stepping away from competitive Rocket League and leaving Shopify. In all, I want to keep this straightforward. There are multiple reasons, but the main one was the environment and how things were as a team. Things were stressful and as well as tiring for a lot of reasons, at least for me, that I won't get into. So in general, I wanted to step away and leave. I started to take a toll on my mental health, and I just wasn't happy with anything. I also want to say that I will just be taking a break. I won't be gone for long, and if you see anything about sports, that is what I'm going to do for now until I decide to start playing again. I'm also going to be focusing on the people I love, such as family and friends, since I already did not feel like I was spending enough time with them. One thing I do want to say is I still will be playing Rocket League, whether it is ranked, six-mans, or anything. I still have such a huge desire to play, just not in the environment I was in. I really appreciate everyone that has reached out to me and thought of me during my decision. Much love to all you guys, and I will be back soon. I think still to leave your team high and dry like this, I think it's going to be really hard for another team to want to give you an opportunity to be a part of it. I don't think a team's going to want to pay to have you if there's that potential that you're just going to up and leave at an important moment. Because I just can't believe that he didn't play in that. And I'm not saying that, like, you should forego your mental health or anything. Like, you know, your mental health is your own thing, but I think it's also just that thing of I'm older, and if I say I'm going to do something, I'm doing it. If I have if I have committed to this, if there has been money invested in me, if there has been time invested into me, I am going to at least do the bare minimum of my part because there are people who are relying on me. And that's me. It's not everybody. And I'm not saying what he did is right or wrong, but with what you said, though, people aren't going to want to touch a contract with him with a 10-foot pole. They're just not going to.
No, and it's so hard for that reason because we don't know. We don't really know exactly, like, you know, if it was good, bad, ugly, whatever. Like, it's hard to really say, and it sucks because, like, he's really talented.
Yeah, he's extremely good.
But to just make the decision of, I'm going to put all of that aside. Don't forget the Shopify contract that they must have gotten. Listen, we don't know exact numbers, but it's pretty damn decent.
Oh,
You're
yeah.
16 years old, like, you know, to put that aside and just say, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't like this environment. I want to play, you know, high school sports, whatever. Like I do get it. You know, I understand. But ultimately, people are going to remember this, and they're going to say, man, do we really want to bring someone in, you know, who is a flight risk?
Mm-hmm.
No pun intended. Sorry, rapid in memory, but
I mean, it is the issue, though, of I think that this, like, it is going to be something people remember. At the end of the day, you know, good on him for recognizing that he needed to get away from it. I think it is good to, you know, be aware of, like, your mental status and stuff. But I'm going to stop praise there because I still think that at the end of the day, there was a lot. And I don't think we know there had to have been a lot invested in this roster, and to have this happen is extremely unfortunate for the Rebellion. It's extremely unfortunate for Memory and Rapid. And it sucks because this is a team that I still hold firm that I believed this would be a top 6 team.
mm-hmm.
I think had they continued the way that they were, this was a top 6 team through and through. I think that, I mean, yeah, we had them pegged to be one of our top 4 for the first regional, and then they didn't even make it out of Swiss. Now they don't even make it out of the closed qualifier. I mean, it's just... It's very unfortunate.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way of putting it. It's just unfortunate because nobody wins here.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's exactly it.
Nobody
wins.
really wins here. So, I don't know, but that's one that we'll continue to digest and watch out. You know, hopefully for the Rebellion, I think this split is just a wash for them.
Oh, it is. It's completely a wash. And the thing is, you gotta wonder who they pick up, who's available.
Well, I think what they do is they probably just wait until the end of the split and find someone on a team that didn't do well.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, and just try and create a thing. But here's the other part of it too, and this is what's so messed up. So we're in the second week. Think about this. We're in the second week of regional events for RLCS for North America.
Mm-hmm.
Shopify was a team that had an outside chance of making Worlds, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a realistic chance, you know, based on their trajectory, that they're a Worlds team.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
That's almost certainly gone at this point. There's no way.
Unless they make
accrued.
unless they make a pickup and they can find the same kind of status that they had with Beast Mode, yeah, your chances of Worlds are pretty much gone. Pretty much.
Right, unless their pickups Garrett G. I mean, you know.
Yeah, outside of picking up, you know, one of the pros from the top teams currently, I have to agree with you. I think that their odds are pretty far and away, especially as teams start to become more sticky. And what I mean by that is, like, they don't change as often. I think that you're seeing much more teams stick together, work out through their issues. I think that only makes things much more difficult here for Shopify. And I think that potentially through Beast Mode's actions, that jeopardizes Memory and Rapid's contracts. Because if they can't find a good third, they don't perform well, Shopify's not going to keep this roster. And if they see a team like True Neutral keep doing well who is not represented, or at least has voiced that they want to be picked up by someone else who is NA based, almost certainly you're going to see Rebellion make the jump over to them.
Yeah, and that's the really hard part too, is, you know, from of all the people who are hit by this, it's Memory and Rapid who suffer the most, like, by far.
Yeah.
And they've been through it, you know, not to go into the history, but they've been through it with the roster stuff. And, you know, they finally had it pretty much figured out. You know, they looked really good. We talk about the projections and how they thought they were going to do, and that's just kind of all down the drain, I guess, for this.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, again, unless I feel like their pickup is literally Garrett G, I just don't see way that they can.
The only pickup that I look at and think could potentially match up to these guys in a good way that would bring them higher is Turinturo.
Really? Of all people, Turinturo.
Well, I think if Rogue does bad, I think if Rogue does bad, they definitely are looking for a change. And if I was Rebellion, of all the players on that roster, I think Turinturo is the one I would pick up.
Yeah, that's fair, but I don't think you're getting. I don't think you're getting the same star power. That's the thing with Beast Mode, is like the way that he played. It's so difficult to replace. You know.
It is, but I think Turinturo's play style would allow Rapid and Memory to push up in offensive positions a bit more. So that's kind of why I think that. But I mean, realistically, though, you look at the rest of the region, it's like it's such a hard thing, because it's like, who the hell do you pick up? Who the hell is going to be available is the other thing. After one regional that goes by like that, I mean, who are you going to possibly pick up? I think that it's tough. And I mean, the odds of like Turinturo even being available are probably pretty slim. I would bet that Taroko is free before Turinturo from Rogue. Yeah, it's just an unfortunate situation. And again, you know, we look at this and it's like, okay, it's really good that as a 16-year-old he was able to recognize that, but at the same time, it's like, there was a lot here that it's just he's kind of screwing a lot.
He's giving
of
up a
people.
lot. He's giving up a lot.
It's not even that he's giving up a lot. It's just that he's kind of screwing a lot of people. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and it may seem mean to say it that way, but he is screwing a lot of people. I mean, this is so... I mean, you gotta feel for Rapid and Memory, dude. You gotta feel for them. Like, that is crushing to know that you had a chance to be worlds bound. And now you're not going to make the first major at all. And you can almost certainly kiss worlds opportunities goodbye unless you manage to find someone who can match up to beast mode. And you're only 2 weeks in.
Yep. That's a real
crushing.
Yep.
So, yeah. I don't think there's anything else I can really say without someone probably getting mad at me, but that's how I feel about it. I think there's plenty of times that I look at things and it's like I recognize that, my mental health is probably struggling and I'm having a hard time, but I think part of, being an adult is sometimes you just have to tough it out. And at least tough it out through the qualifier. At least tough it out through that. Give them a shot at the main event, because now that they're not even guaranteed a spot at the next closed qualifier, you've certainly taken everything from them.
Yeah, it's a lot to lose, and I as I said, it's unfortunate because there are absolutely zero winners in this spot. There's just nobody that comes out ahead here. So
yep.
I don't know. I think we've covered it as much as we can. We'll see how they do. We'll see who they get. But
gonna be following it closely, that's for sure.
Doesn't look good right now at all.
Does not. But that is gonna do it for the roster shuffle. And so with that, our show has come to a close. We are done. All the predictions have been made. All the recaps have been done. All the viewpoints have been presented. So with that, Perino, is there anything you'd like to add before we close this bad boy out?
Sorry for an extended episode, but I feel like that last story was an important one to really touch on. It
really was.
It's not an easy thing. There's a lot of people who I know would kill to have the opportunity that Beast Mode has had. There's a lot of people that will not understand it. And Beast, if you're listening, I hope that you get things figured out for yourself. 16, a lot of time, a lot of space to do anything you want in life yet. So don't let any of this define you. And
True.
I hope things work out.
Yeah. I can agree with that. He's got plenty of life ahead of him. 16 years old is nothing. I'm only 28. That's nothing. So, that all said, hope the best for everybody at the end of this. It's just tough for them. But guys, with that, be sure to give us a like, follow, subscribe, do all those things on here or on YouTube or your podcast service of choice. You can follow us at PWR_leagues. You can follow me at PWR_Ryan. You can follow him at Perino TV. I say all that super fast. Hopefully you can understand it at this point. This is 14 episodes in. I feel like our handles by now. If you're not following us yet, you don't want to, and it's okay.
Hey, you don't want to scare away new people like that. Come on. If this is the first episode they're listening to, they're not going to know.
That's fair.
So.
That's fair. But with that, guys, that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us, and it was our pleasure to serve you. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you guys next time. Peace out.